They think I'm just the obedient wife, but today my husband brings home 3 filthy, illegitimate kids, expecting me to smile and nod. Well, guess what? I'm not just going to accept this. I'm taking charge. If he thinks I'll let his brother's mistresses run free, he's got another thing coming. Welcome to my mansion. Chaos is about to become profitable. I'm the kind of person who always settles scores. If someone makes my life miserable, then nobody gets to live comfortably. At the homecoming banquet, my husband brought back 3 dirty, ragged children with a solemn expression on his face. These are the orphan children of my late deputy general. From now on, they will be our children. My eldest sister-in-law remarked sarcastically from the side, "Oh my, what good fortune for you, sister-in-law. You become a mother the moment you marry and saves you the trouble of giving birth yourself." My third sister-in-law covered her mouth and giggled. Exactly. Our household is going to be so lively now. My mother-in-law sat high in her seat, clearly waiting to see me swallow my anger in silence. I glanced at the 3 so-called orphans, who looked as if they had been carved from the same mold as my husband, and smiled. Lively is good. After all, joy shared is better than joy kept to oneself. Then I turned to my maid and ordered, "Go. Bring back the eldest brothers and third brother's concubines, along with all their sons and daughters. If everyone isn't gathered here today, then none of us will be eating." 1. The hall fell into dead silence. The smiles on everyone's faces froze. My husband, Changfeng, was the first to react. He frowned deeply. "Wanjin, what nonsense are you talking about? Today is your homecoming day. Don't make trouble." Having been transported into this old-fashioned family intrigue novel for 3 months, I had already figured out the plot. I arrived right at the original story's ending. In the book, the entire Yong'an Marquis Manor was destroyed because of these 3 orphans of Changfeng. To cover up the scandal of his illegitimate sons, he drained the entire household fortune to bribe and maneuver. In the end, his political enemies caught hold of his weakness, and the whole family was executed. As for the original Shen Wanjin, who had guarded the empty shell of the household as his lawful wife, her fate was to be forced to drink poisoned wine and die alone in a cold courtyard. This husband of mine, Changfeng, appeared to be the young and promising heir of the Yong'an Marquis title, but in truth he was nothing more than a useless man whose spirit had been shattered after a single military defeat. After his mistress died, he still had the nerve to openly bring 3 illegitimate children back to the manor, disguising them as the orphans of his deputy general. Absolutely ridiculous. Fortunately, I didn't care at all. The more people, the better, because more people meant more money. I lifted my teacup and spoke casually. "What are you saying, husband? How is this making trouble?" "I simply noticed that the household has too much masculine energy, so I kindly brought back our brother's own flesh and blood to help the family flourish. More branches, more children, more blessings." Just as I finished speaking, the gate steward came rushing in, stumbling and sweating. "Old Madam, Marquis, terrible news. At the gate, there are many women and children. They claim to be the families of the eldest and third masters, here to enter the manor and acknowledge their lineage." The eldest brother jumped to his feet in fright, his face pale. Nonsense. The third brother's legs went weak, and he collapsed onto his chair, nervously glancing at his wife. I slowly rose to my feet. Whether it's nonsense or not, why not let them in and see for ourselves? After all, blood is thicker than water. I shot a meaningful look at the senior maid, who came with my dowry. She immediately understood and called out loudly, "By order of the young madam, open the main gates and welcome the concubines, young masters, and young ladies into the manor." The gates swung open, and a flock of women, chattering and bustling, poured inside with children of all sizes in tow. The scene was truly spectacular. Some children clung to the eldest brother's legs, calling him father. Some women grabbed the third brother's sleeves, crying out their grievances. The originally solemn main hall of the Marquis Manor instantly turned into something resembling a noisy marketplace. My eldest sister-in-law trembled with rage, pointing at her husband and shouting, "Gu Changlei! Didn't you swear you never fooled around outside? Then where did this 3-year-old son come from? My third sister-in-law was no pushover either. She grabbed a fruit plate from the table and smashed it right into the third brother's face. Gu Changdian, you wretch. Using my dowry money to support a mistress. I'll fight you to the end. Watching all this unfold, Gu Changfeng's face turned ashen. He lowered his voice and snarled at me. Shen Wanjin, are you out of your mind? Are you trying to ruin the reputation of the entire manor? I blinked innocently and pointed at the 3 trembling orphans behind him. Husband, you're allowed to bring back your deputy general's orphans to show loyalty and righteousness, but your brothers aren't allowed to bring back their own flesh and blood to enjoy family happiness? Isn't that a bit too domineering of you? Gu Changfeng was left speechless. Those 3 children might have been filthy, but their brows and eyes, their noses, everything, looked exactly like him as a child. Anyone with eyes could tell they were his. My mother-in-law finally came to her senses. Clutching her chest, she pointed at me with a trembling hand. Rebellion, outright rebellion. Are you trying to anger me to death? I stepped forward with a gentle, respectful smile. Mother, please calm yourself. Your daughter-in-law is only trying to ease your worries. You've always said the manor has too few descendants. Now so many grandchildren have appeared at once. You should be happy. Then I turned to face the chaotic room and called out loudly, Everyone, stop arguing. My voice rang out strong and clear. Startled by my shout, everyone instinctively fell silent. I swept my gaze across the hall, finally letting it rest on the concubines and illegitimate children. Since you've stepped through the gates of the Marquis Manor, you are now members of this household. However, the manor does not support idle mouths. If you wish to stay and eat here, you must follow my rules.
2.
By nightfall, the chaos in the Marquis Manor finally settled down. The eldest and third brothers had both been scratched into striped cats by their wives and were now kneeling in the ancestral hall to reflect on their sins. My mother-in-law was so furious, she had summoned a doctor, claiming her old migraines had flared up again. Gu Changfeng came into my room with a dark expression and dropped heavily into a chair. Shen Wanjin, you went too far today. His face was stern, clearly trying to put on the air of the head of the household. I sat at the dressing table, calmly removing the golden hairpins from my head. Too far? I don't think so. Gu Changfeng took a deep breath. Those 3 children, they really are mine. So he finally stopped pretending.
Oh.
My reaction was flat as I picked up an ivory comb and slowly brushed my hair. Gu Changfeng froze for a moment, apparently surprised by my calmness. You're not angry? Why should I be angry? I looked at him through the mirror. Gu Changfeng, let's be honest with each other. My Shen family wanted your Marquis title. Your Gu family wanted my Shen family's money. This marriage was a business deal from the very beginning. His face flushed red. You actually see marriage as a transaction? How unbearably vulgar. Vulgar? I let out a cold laugh and tossed an account ledger into his arms. Vulgar, you say? When your father died on the battlefield and the Marquis Manor was on the verge of collapse, whose family produced 100,000 taels of silver to stabilize your title, who swallowed their pride and begged the emperor to allow you to inherit the rank. You went to war for 2 years, yes, but after a single defeat, you were so terrified you abandoned your armor and fled back home. All these years, the manor has survived on my Shen family's money. What right do you have to call me vulgar? Gu Changfeng's face turned deathly pale. His lips trembled, but he couldn't find a single word to refute me. He truly had once been a promising young general, going to war at 17, making a name for himself with a spear, considered the most hopeful descendant to restore glory to the Gu family. But that one defeat had become the nightmare of his life. The enemy pretended to surrender, and the 300 personal soldiers he led were wiped out. His deputy general died shielding him, riddled with arrows. After returning to court, he resigned from military service, claiming he was tired of war. In truth, he woke from nightmares night after night. For years he hid in the inner residence, acting as a hands-off master, fooling no one but himself while clinging desperately to the Shen family fortune. Looking at him like this, I felt nothing but exasperation. At the moment, I continued, there are only 120 taels of silver left in the manor's public accounts, not even enough to pay for next month's charcoal. And yet those so-called deputy generals' orphans you brought home demand bird's nest porridge and silk clothes the moment they step through the door. These accounts were ones I had carefully calculated after entering the novel, matching them against the hidden details from the original plot. The book had mentioned that the Yong'an Marquis manor had long been drained dry by the previous Marquis. After Gu Changfeng inherited the title, all he did was sit back and slowly consume what little remained. That remaining 120 taels was money I had painstakingly scraped together after taking over household management. Add the 3 you brought home today, plus the whole crowd from the eldest and third branches. That's at least 10 more mouths to feed. Gu Changfeng, what exactly are you going to use to support them? Your so-called pride? Or that worthless sense of face you cling to? With trembling hands, Gu Changfeng flipped through the ledger. He knew the manor was an empty shell, but he hadn't realized it was this empty. Still, even so, we can't just take them all in, he protested weakly. Not take them in? And let them stay outside ruining the manor's reputation? I walked over to him and looked down at him from above. If they're brought inside, they'll be right under my watch. I am the mistress of this household. I control the money. If I want them round, they'll be round. If I want them flat, they'll be flat. Gu Changfeng stared at me, a flicker of fear passing through his eyes. He probably had never met a woman like me, one who neither cried nor made a scene, but spoke only of interests and benefits. Then what exactly do you want to do? He asked. Very simple. I held up 3 fingers. First, those 3 children of yours will be officially recorded under my name as legitimate sons. But how they are raised and educated, that will be entirely up to me. As for the concubines from the eldest and third branches, I don't care how much the sisters-in-law scream and fight, they all stay. Stay for what? To anger mother to death? To work? I curled my lips into a meaningful smile. The manor is huge and short on hands. Those concubines are young and strong. Some can even sing or play instruments. They're all resources. As for the children, I looked at Gu Changfeng's handsome, but somewhat spineless face. It's about time our manor opened a proper school. And honestly, your 3 kids all look quite promising, especially the eldest. That clever spark in his eyes, he's a good seedling. Gu Changfeng listened in confusion. What kind of seedling? A seedling for a money tree. 3. The next morning, I called the entire household to the main hall. Everyone was present, except for my mother-in-law, who was still pretending to be ill. My eldest sister-in-law had dark circles under her eyes, and the way she looked at me could have cut glass. My third sister-in-law was still sniffling, clearly having cried plenty last night. As for the concubines and illegitimate children, they huddled together in a corner, trembling, adorable, really. Gu Changfeng sat silently beside me, but his 3 children were bold enough, their eyes darting around as they stared at the pastries on the table, swallowing nervously. I stayed quiet. I knew all too well that if we followed the original plot, in less than 6 months, the manor would be eaten alive by these little parasites. Romance? That's the least valuable thing in this world. Shen Wanjin, only trust silver. Life exists to serve me. I tapped the table, and everyone immediately looked at me. Now that everyone's here, let's set some rules. I pulled out a stack of contracts and handed them to the senior maid to distribute. These are employment agreements. If you can read, read for yourself. If you can't, I'll explain. From today on, the manor will no longer feed idlers for free. To the eldest branch's concubine, Lady Lu, I hear you were once a seamstress? Then off to the sewing room with you. All mending and tailoring for the manor's clothing is your responsibility. 2 taels of silver per month, with bonuses for good work. Lady Lu froze. She had thought coming to the manor meant enjoying life, not working. I won't. Then get out, I interrupted. Eldest brother Gu Changlei tried to speak up, but his wife pinched him hard. He winced in pain, and didn't dare say a word. To the third branch's Lady Zhang, I hear you have a beautiful voice and can play the pipa? Lady Zhang held her child and nodded timidly. Good. From now on, whenever the manor entertains guests, or when the old madam wants to listen to music, that will be your duty. Also, I've opened a tea house in the city and need a resident singer. You can work there part-time. Profits split 70-30. The manor keeps 30, you keep 70. Lady Zhang's eyes lit up. Life outside had been tight, and that miserly Gu Chongdian barely gave her a few taels a month. Now she could earn money for herself and keep 70%, a huge opportunity. Once the concubines were handled, I turned to the little rascals. The oldest was 10, the youngest had just learned to walk. As for the children, my gaze landed on Gu Changfeng's eldest son. His name was good, a silly name, but the boy was undeniably handsome, with delicate features. We're going to start a private school in the manor, but don't just study the classics. I smiled. These days, the imperial exams are like a narrow bridge. We need a backup plan. I see that Gooden is agile and quick. He's made for martial training. From now on, he'll train 2 hours a day with the guards. If he does well, he can be sent to the imperial army for a post in the future, bringing honor to the family. Gu Changfeng couldn't help but interject. He's only 8. 8 isn't too young.
Poor kids grow up fast.
I gave him a pointed look. If he's the deputy general's orphan, he should have the bearing of a soldier's child. Wallowing in the inner residence all day won't get him anywhere. Gu Changfeng was silenced. Eldest sister-in-law and third sister-in-law watched me transform these hot potatoes into productive workers in no time, their expressions changing rapidly. The concubines didn't utter a word. They might have wanted to curse me for being harsh, but I had at least left them a path forward and even paid them wages. If they wanted to praise me, they couldn't. They still thought my methods utterly undignified for nobility. But I didn't care. Dignity? Can dignity put food on the table? The manor's accounts were shocking. If we didn't increase income and cut expenses, everyone would be living off wind in 2 years. Finally, one more thing. I swept my gaze across the 3 Gu brothers, then fixed it on Gu Changfeng. Though the manor has fallen on hard times, the Yong'an Marquis title is still prestigious. There are plenty of nouveau riche families in the capital eager to bask in noble air. Husband, your 3 children resemble you. That's perfect. Gu Changfeng watched me warily. What are you planning? I want to start a little noble upbringing program. I pulled out a flyer I had prepared earlier. For 100 taels of silver, children from outside families can enter the manor, eat, live, and study alongside these little lords, soaking up noble manners, and receive your personal guidance, General Husband. Gu Changfeng's eyes widened. What are you doing with the manor? This is fraud. Fraud? No, this is high-end educational training. I spoke confidently. Your 3 children are living advertisements. Imagine the wealthy merchants seeing these children raised well, knowledgeable, well-mannered, and skilled in martial arts. Won't they be tempted? Once they're tempted, the silver will come naturally. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at me like I was some kind of monster. Only the boy named Gooden had eyes that sparkled like mine, a glint of ambition, the hunger for making money.
4.
My little Marquis training program immediately ran into fierce opposition from my mother-in-law. She lay in bed, whining and mumbling that I was bringing shame to the family and that she would have me divorced. I didn't get angry. Instead, I stood by her bed with the monthly ledger and started reading aloud. This month, medicine expenses, 50 taels. Eldest brother owes the gambling house 300 taels. Third brother's bar tabs on credit, 80 taels. Roof repairs, 100 taels. Mother, not only do we have no money, we're also 1,000 taels in debt. If we don't have money, your medicine might have to stop and eldest brother's hand will be chopped off by the gambling house. Her whining came to an abrupt halt. She was stubborn, yes, but she feared death even more, and she loved her sons. Tiffin, we can't let the young masters study alongside those merchants' children. She tried to make a last-ditch argument. They're not studying alongside them, they're keeping them company. I corrected her. Those merchants' children are here to accompany our young masters. It's a privilege for them. Under the pressure of finances, my mother-in-law finally gave in. On the opening day of the little Marquis training program, the manor's gates were lined with carriages. Although the nouveau riche in the capital had money, they most lacked social status. Being able to send their children into the Marquis manor, mingling with real noble heirs, was an opportunity they could hardly refuse. The 100-tael tuition fee was nothing in their eyes. For the first cohort, I enrolled 20 students, collecting 2,000 taels of silver. Gu Changfeng's eyes nearly popped out at the sight of all that silver. Though he verbally protested that it was demeaning to the nobility, when I asked him to teach the children military strategy, he still donned his most imposing armor and went to the training grounds to pose. Good, and that boy was smart. He quickly understood my intentions. In front of those wealthy young masters, he carried himself with all the airs of a proper manor heir. This is my father's sword, used to slay enemy generals, no touching. 5 taels for a touch. This is an imperial calligraphy gift, 2 taels to look at it. The boy had even started a secondary fee system. I looked at the reports from the accounting office and felt overjoyed. Although the manor was falling apart, with proper packaging, it was full of treasures. However, the good times didn't last long. Half a month into the business, trouble came knocking. One day, a group of burly, intimidating men blocked the manor's gate, brandishing IOUs owed by eldest brother Gu Chonglei. Debts must be repaid. Gu Chonglei owes our gambling house 5,000 taels. If we don't get it today, we'll tear down the gates of this manor. 5,000 taels? I frowned. That useless Gu Chonglei was really playing with fire. Gu Changfeng rushed out with the guards, tension skyrocketing. It was about to erupt into a fight. At that moment, an extremely luxurious carriage slowly stopped in front of the manor. The curtain was drawn back, and a man in a dragon-embroidered robe stepped out. He was Zhao Wuji, the all-powerful director of the Imperial Secret Service in this alternate dynasty. In the original book, he was a key figure. Though he held unrivaled power, he had no biological children. In his later years, he adopted a son, Zhao Tianxi, who was notoriously unruly, so much so that he even dared to hit the emperor's own sons. Zhao Wuji had scoured the capital for tutors to discipline him, all to no avail. My heart skipped a beat. More importantly, in the later plot of the book, it was because Gu Changfeng offended Zhao Wuji that his enemies were able to catch him off guard and ruin his reputation completely. And now, Zhao Wuji was showing up on our doorstep? This wasn't trouble, it was a golden opportunity handed to me by heaven itself. Zhao Wuji toyed with 2 walnuts in his hands, his gaze icy as he scanned the scene. Well, what's going on at Yong'an Marquis Manor? Such a commotion. The men from the gambling house immediately cowered at the sight of Zhao Wuji and knelt, kowtowing. I lifted my skirts and stepped forward through the crowd, plastering on the brightest professional smile. Director Zhao, it's an honor to have you visit. I apologize for the disturbance. These commoners do not understand etiquette. I will have them leave immediately. Zhao Wuji raised an eyebrow, looking at me. And you are? I am Lady Shen, wife of the Yong'an Marquis heir. I spoke calmly, neither humble nor arrogant. I heard Director Zhao has been seeking a quiet place to educate his adopted son. Our noble training program at the manor is unique in the capital, both in environment and instructors. Zhao Wuji paused, then laughed heartily. Interesting. Truly interesting. My adopted son is indeed unruly. If you can manage him well, I'll settle the 5,000 tael debt on behalf of the manor. My eyes lit up. This wasn't a powerful official, it was a walking money-making angel. Director, rest assured. I patted my chest in promise. Gu Changfeng tugged at my sleeve, pale as a ghost. Wanjin, that's the Eastern Depot. I shrugged off his hand and whispered. So, what if it's the Eastern Depot? Money has no smell. As long as there's silver, I can even teach a dog to behave. Besides, having the Eastern Depot in our corner meant no one would dare cause trouble at the manor. That's leverage. I watched Zhao Wuji leave, my mental abacus clicking away. The manor's business had only just begun. However, Zhao Wuji's adopted son, I'd heard he was a little demon who even dared hit princes. Looks like I need to spice up this training program. I turned to Gooden in the corner, smiling maternally. Gooden, do you want to be class monitor? I'll increase your management fee by 20%. Gooden's eyes sparkled. Yes, mother. How do we do it? Look at that, this kid is sharp. As long as the money's right, there's no mischievous child I can't handle. Before we dive back into the chaos at the manor, let me give you a little peek behind the curtain. Sometimes, even the most untamable little monsters need a lesson in rules, and who better to teach them than yours truly? Buckle up, this part gets wild.
5.
Zhao Wuji's adopted son arrived. This boy, Zhao Tianxi, lived up to his name, an absolute unruly little devil. The first thing he did upon entering the manor was dump a bucket of red paint on the pair of white marble lions at the gate, claiming they weren't festive enough. Next, in the main hall, he complained that the tea was too hot and smashed my entire set of ding kiln teaware to pieces. Gu Changfeng watched in horror. Those teacups were worth 800 taels. Eldest brother and third brother's wives hid behind a screen, too scared to breathe. After shattering the cups, Zhao Tianxi kicked a chair, glanced at me sideways, and sneered. So you're the woman trying to make a proper young master out of me? Doesn't look like much. Behind him trailed 4 imperial guards, each with a hand on their embroidered sabers, looking terrifying. Gu Changfeng tugged at my sleeve, signaling me to be patient. I just smiled and beckoned to the accountant, pointing at the broken teaware and the stone lions. Record this. 1 set of ding kiln teaware, depreciation fee, 1,000 taels. White marble lions cleaning and mental distress compensation, 500 taels. And the guard dog scared by Master Zhao entering the gate, 50 taels. Zhao Tianxi froze. You dare ask me for money? Why wouldn't I? I calmly played with the abacus. Director Zhao said you're here to learn manners. The greatest rule in this world? Pay your debts. If you refuse, I'll send this bill to the Eastern Depot. Since Director Zhao already paid 5,000 taels to settle the manor's debt, I doubt he'll mind spending another 1,550 to teach a lesson. Fuming, Zhao Tianxi threw a stack of silver notes on the ground. Little master has plenty of money. Take it and buy a coffin. I signaled Gooden, who scrambled over, picked up the notes, counted them one by one, and checked each against the sunlight for authenticity. Mother, there's 300 taels extra. Gooden chirped. Save it as Master Zhao's advance payment. I looked at Zhao Tianxi. Now that the money is settled, let's start class. Zhao Tianxi snorted coldly. Class? Today, I'll turn this manor into ruins. He was about to move when I clapped my hands. 20 fully armed guards immediately surrounded him, not with swords, but fishing nets. This was my special preparation. Confronting a mischievous child trained in combat required cunning, not brute force. Before Zhao Tianxi could react, a huge net enveloped him, its corners pulled tight, hoisting him into the air. His 4 imperial guards reached for their sabers, but I raised a golden plaque. It was an imperial death exemption token, earned by Gu Changfeng's father to save the emperor's life. It had no real power, but in moments like this, it was perfect for asserting authority. This is the Marquis Manor, not the Eastern Depot. Director Zhao entrusted this child to me. He's effectively signed a life and death agreement. As long as I don't harm him, how I discipline him is my business. I coldly stared at the 4 guards. If any of you touch him, it's trespassing with intent to rebel. A charge your director can't bear, right? The guards exchanged uneasy glances and retreated. Zhao Tianxi swore loudly in the net. I had a chair brought over and sat below, calmly sipping tea as I listened. When he finally ran out of steam and his voice hoarse, I spoke. Done swearing? Good. Let's discuss room and board fees. From now on, every sip of water, every bite of rice, every bed you sleep in this manor will cost you. Because of your uncivilized behavior just now, your basic credit score is 0. Now, if you want to come down and eat, you'll have to work to pay your debt. Zhao Tianxi spat. Dream on. I nodded. Good backbone. Gooden, bring dinner here. Let Master Zhao smell what it's like.
6.
3 days, just 3 days, and Zhao Tianxi went from an untamable little devil to a hungry, untamable little devil. Those 3 days he got a taste of what real hell was. The methods I devised even made Gu Changfeng feel merciless. On the first day, Zhao Tianxi, starved, tried to buy food. I told him the manor ran on a closed economy. Outside, silver wasn't valid. Work points were the only currency, and the only way to earn work points was labor. The second day, he tried to protest by fasting. I had the eldest brother's wife walk past him repeatedly with freshly cooked braised pork, chanting mockingly, just one bite, rich but not greasy, melts in your mouth, shame some people aren't lucky enough to taste it. By the third day, he broke down. Seeing a bunch of nouveau riche boys younger than him eating greedily, staring at him like he was an idiot, shattered his defenses. I'll do it. Just give me work, he screamed from the net. I had him released. Good. Today's task, chop 50 gene of firewood. That'll earn you 2 steamed buns and a bowl of pickles. Zhao Tianxi glared at the pile of wood, eyes nearly popping. I'm the Eastern Depot's young master, and you want me to chop firewood? Not doing it? I feigned taking back a bun. Gooden, the buns are yours. Gooden grinned and opened his mouth to bite. Stop. Zhao Tianxi snatched the axe. I'll do it. It proved that human potential is limitless. For those 2 buns, Zhao Tianxi unleashed astonishing strength. Though his tender skin blistered, he actually finished chopping the wood. And when he devoured those hard buns, he acted as if he were feasting on a full imperial banquet. I stood in the corridor, watching, satisfied. At that moment, Gu Changfeng quietly approached from behind, sighing. Wanjin, aren't you afraid Director Zhao will skin you alive if he finds out? He won't, I said confidently. Someone like Zhao Wuji, who clawed his way out of a mountain of corpses, despises incompetence above all. Sending this child here is his way of grinding the arrogance out of him. Besides, I turned to Gu Changfeng. Husband, it's your turn. Me? Gu Changfeng pointed at his own nose.
Yes.
Zhao Tianxi may have submitted outwardly, but inside, he's still defiant. He feels like a tiger fallen from the mountain, bullied by dogs. Now he needs a true master to intimidate him, to earn his respect. I sized him up. Where's your armor?
Put it on.
And memorize that heroic battlefield speech about how you slew enemy generals? Gu Changfeng puffed out his chest. Of course. Back then, Enough boasting. I cut him off. Go, show Zhao Tianxi a thing or two. Remember, cold, disdainful. Make him feel that the people you've killed on the battlefield outnumber the meals he's eaten. Pushed out, Gu Changfeng performed a set of Gu family spear techniques. Though just a display, combined with his shining armor and stern face, even the inexperienced children were intimidated. Even Zhao Tianxi was stunned. He was unruly, yes, but a boy at heart, and he instinctively admired heroes. When Gu Changfeng executed a spinning horse dance, striking a wooden post, then coldly stated, "Train in virtue first. If you can't endure even this hardship, going to the battlefield is a death sentence." The bun in Zhao Tianxi's hand fell to the floor. At that moment, I could almost see countless tails of silver flying straight toward me. A month later, Zhao Wuji came to inspect the results. When he saw his once foul-mouthed, silk-clad adopted son now squatting in a proper horse stance, clad in coarse linen, reciting the art of war with perfect discipline, the walnuts he was playing with slipped from his hands and clattered to the ground. This is our Tianxi? Zhao Wuji rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Zhao Tianxi's eyes welled up at the sight of his godfather, but he quickly suppressed it. Maintaining his horse stance, he shouted loudly, reporting to director, "This morning's lesson isn't yet complete. Please wait a moment." His voice was full, commanding, and perfectly respectful. Zhao Wuji's hands trembled with excitement. He turned to me, his gaze finally filled with genuine admiration. "Madam Shen, you are incredible." I bowed humbly. "Director, you flatter me." It is simply that your son is exceptionally bright and learns at once." Zhao Wuji laughed heartily and immediately had 2 chests of gold brought down from his carriage. "The debts of this manor are fully settled. Furthermore, from now on, Tianxi's tuition will be doubled and covered by our family." I accepted with a smile, while mentally planning the next step. With Xiao Tianxi as a living advertisement, the manor's aristocratic training school became an instant sensation. High officials and wealthy nobles of the capital, seeing even the notorious Little Devil from the Eastern Depot tamed and well-behaved, rushed to enroll their own reckless heirs. Soon, the manor was overflowing with students. I had to upgrade the facilities. First, I requisitioned the courtyards of the eldest and third brothers' wives, converting them into high-end dormitories. Though reluctant, the promise of profit made them cooperate. They even volunteered to manage daily life for the students. The eldest was in charge of inspections. With her cold, stern face, no young master dared sneak out at night. The third handled meals, applying her miserly skills to maximize nutrition while keeping costs minimal. The eldest and third brothers didn't sit idle either. Eldest brother Gu Chonglei, though lacking in scholarly or martial talent, had years of experience in casinos and excelled at reading people and card counting. I had him run a fortune and strategy course, teaching these young masters to avoid being cheated in gambling, a hit with students. Third brother Gu Chongdian, a bon vivant familiar with every pleasure the city offered, led a social etiquette and leisure class, instructing the rich heirs how to spend elegantly and maintain composure in any entertainment setting. Even the concubines and secondary wives showcased their talents. The embroidery teacher taught needlework for the wealthy daughters' classes. The musician taught music theory. Zhang, the singer, formed a manor choir that performed outside the gates on the 1st and 15th of every month, earning fame while subtly promoting my tea house business. The entire manor operated like a finely tuned cash machine, roaring with efficiency. Gu Changfeng, as nominal headmaster, donned his silver armor daily to give the children lessons in battlefield tactics. Though mostly show, it intimidated the young heirs, who secretly dubbed him Principal Gu Shan. The title spread, eclipsing even the Marquis' renown. Officials in the capital teased him. "Principal Gu Shan, you've got students all over the city now." Though he verbally protested the flattery, his smile betrayed him. He busied himself hosting parents, far more lively than his previous idle days. Just as I thought life would continue prosperously, on the eve of Mid-Autumn Festival, a royal decree arrived. The Empress Dowager, having heard of the manor's successful teaching, commanded that the students perform at the palace during the festival, alongside princes and royal heirs. The decree struck like thunder. A successful performance could bring unprecedented wealth and honor to the manor, even a royal calligraphy inscription. But a failure could cost the entire family their heads. After all, the audience was the most prestigious and most critical group in the realm. Moreover, the crown prince's tutor was notoriously rigid, despising such wild schools of unconventional education. He had already threatened to publicly expose our misguidance of children. That night, Gu Changfeng was pale with fear. "Wanjin, what do we do? Everything we've taught is so unorthodox. How could it possibly be fit for the palace?" I sat calmly, rolling one of the walnuts Zhao Wuji had gifted me between my fingers. What's there to fear? I narrowed my eyes. If it's a celebration, then we celebrate. If the tutor says we're wild, then we'll be wild and we'll show it in style, with skill. I turned to Gooden, marching a group of younger students in the yard. "Gooden, come here." "Mother, what is it?" "Inform everyone. All regular classes are suspended. From tomorrow, we'll rehearse a major production." "What production?" A wild smile curved my lips. "A large-scale live stage play, Loyalty and Patriotism." For the imperial performance, the manor went into full wartime mode. I emptied my savings, hired the best tailors in the capital, and had them work overnight to make the costumes. The script was personally written by me. Rather than having these spoiled heirs struggle with texts they couldn't memorize, I decided to play to their strengths. Zhao Tianxi played the villainous Jin General, a role tailor-made for him. His natural arrogance required no acting at all. Gooden portrayed young Yu Fei. Though small, his gaze was resolute and his movements precise. Other students played song soldiers or commoners. Even the dorm supervisors and cooks, including the eldest and third brothers' wives, were drafted into the choir to provide musical accompaniment. Rehearsals were chaotic. Zhao Tianxi complained that his costume wasn't imposing enough and insisted on inserting 2 peacock feathers into his helmet. I agreed, so long as he delivered his provocative lines with enough venom to make me want to hit him. The wealthy young ladies playing the villagers grumbled about wearing coarse linen and smearing dirt on their faces. I told them it was battle damage makeup, the latest wasteland chic style. If they performed well, perhaps a palace prince would notice them. Immediately, they stopped complaining, even arguing over whose dirt looked more authentically weathered. The hardest to manage was Gu Changfeng. I had him play Yu Fei's master, Zhou Tong, a role requiring a serene, noble bearing, tempered by inner strength, not just flashy posturing. Though handsome and once a youthful general in shining armor, a past defeat had dulled all his edges. Years of hiding in the rear palace had left his armor dusty, his expression timid and perfunctory. The heroic aura of his lineage was buried deep, seemingly irretrievable. After 3 days of rehearsal, his hands shook holding the sword, his eyes wandered during lines. He looked more like a traveling charlatan than a mentor. With a palace performance approaching, I grew anxious. That night, I brought him to the ancestral hall, pointing at the countless ancestral tablets. Gu Changfeng looked closely. These are the ancestors of the Gu family. Your great-grandfather fought beside the founding emperor, surviving 18 arrows. Your grandfather defended the frontier for 30 years, striking fear into the Xiongnu. You are their descendant. Even if you have no skill, don't you have some courage? Gu Changfeng knelt on the cushion, shoulders trembling. Wanjin, I'm useless. I don't want to be this way, but I can't do it. Who says you can't? I crouched to meet his gaze. These past months, you've led these children through wind and rain. Do you still think you're the same coward who hid behind a woman? Look at the way these children look at you. That is admiration, trust. In their eyes, you are the great hero. Now your students are going into battle. As their master, are you going to cower first? Tears glimmered in his eyes. He was silent for a long moment, then slowly rose. He walked to the altar, picking up his grandfather's long and used sword. With a clang, the blade slid from its sheath. In that instant, I felt a faint stirring of the warrior's soul that had long slept within him. I'll play the role, he said firmly. On mid-autumn night, the imperial palace was ablaze with lights. I and Gu Changfeng led over 100 people into the palace in grand procession. The tutor was predictably unpleasant. Upon seeing us, he sneered. Oh, these are Principal Gu Shan's prize students? They all look like rogues. Gu Changfeng ignored him, straightened his robes, and said calmly, Tutor, you'll see soon enough. The performance began. As the war drum sounded, Zhao Tianxi and the Jin soldiers charged the stage arrogantly, while Gooden led the Yu army, descending like a storm. The imperial garden fell silent. This was no soft, perfumed dance, it was real combat. The raw passion of youth, the tragic valor of defending one's homeland, rang out through their slightly awkward yet wholehearted cries, striking directly at the heart. Finally, Gu Changfeng, portraying Zhou Tong, stood on the high platform. Facing the devastated land, he recited the monologue I had written for him. 30 years of fame turned to dust, 8,000 miles of clouds and moon. Do not idly waste your youth, leaving white hair behind, empty regrets. Though his voice trembled slightly, it carried a grave and stirring resonance. In that moment, he was no longer a pampered man-child. He was Gu Feng, descendant of the Marquis of Yong'an. Silence reigned. After a long pause, the Empress Dowager wiped her tears and led the applause. The Emperor beamed with delight, awarding Gu Feng the imperial sword and personally inscribing 4 characters on a plaque, Pillar of the Nation, granted to the Manor's Academy. Even the tutor, stroking his beard with reddened cheeks, admitted, though unorthodox, there is genuine loyalty here. The performance was a complete triumph. Exiting the palace, the moon hung perfectly round. Gu Changfeng hugged the plaque, grinning like a fool. Zhao Tianxi and Gooden linked arms, debating who had looked cooler on stage. The eldest and third wives counted the sunflower seeds gifted by the Empress Dowager, beaming with delight. I exhaled, long and deep. The manor's chaos was finally thriving. Yet my ambition did not end there. With the Pillar of the Nation plaque, I planned not only to open branch schools, but an entire chain. I would spread the Yong'an Marquis education group across Jiangnan and beyond. When that day comes, I, Shen Wanjin, would be the greatest education tycoon in the entire dynasty. Watching her turn a scandal into her empire, honestly, it's a masterclass in strategy and zero-fuss vengeance. She doesn't just fight for herself. She flips the rules, makes every problem work for her. I love how even the littlest details, like managing those kids and the mistresses, are all part of her plan. This story reminds us, sometimes chaos is just opportunity in disguise. Thanks for sticking with me till the end. What would you do if you were in her shoes?